Hi guys, this is Ian, the Snapkeep channel, bringing you a deck tech and gameplay on Pauper Zombies. We're going to get into the deck tech here, and hope you guys enjoy the video. If you do, give it a like, subscribe. We're going to have some more videos coming out in the next couple weeks, maybe some more of the Spark spoiler stuff, but let's get into the deck tech really quick right now. Starting off on the lands, we have two Barrymore for cycling reasons, a Bajuga block to get rid of our opponent's graveyard. We have 4 Carrion Feeders, which is a great enabler for the deck. We're using it to sacrifice our Festering Mummies, a Shambling Goblin, as well as our Sultai Emissary, growing that Carrion Feeder and getting 1/1 counters from the mummies on our opponent's creatures or threats, and then bringing back the Emissary, killing it, and taking that the Morph token, that card advantage. We want to get that card advantage engine going. And we also have 3 Ghoul Caller's Chance in the main deck. Those are to bring back our zombies, so we're able to Festering Mummy on a Carrion Feeder, and we get that 1/1, make them 1/1, cast Ghoul Caller's Chant, bring back 2 zombies, and then do another 1/1, so it's a pretty good versatile card. Chainer's Edict, we have 3 of them. It's simple removal, really good against blue-black, kind of get rid of their big threat that we can't deal with too well, or flash it back. Nameless Inversions also kind of serve as removal. We can also use it on a Grey Merchant to get into some attack damage to finish the game. 4 Sultai Emissary, as we said, for the Morph card, then we can sack it to Morph. And Vicious Offering, we have 2 of them. You're sacking a creature usually to do 5/5 on something else. Gets rid of Gurmag Angler, pretty good. 3 Silent Blood for card draw purposes, and we have 4 Ghoul Razors. Bring back card randomly from our graveyard. This kind of gets our Gem Palm Polluters so we can cycle them away. Pestilence, we have 1 of in the main deck, and that's really good against wiping our wide strategies like Elves. When we face them, it's really good at controlling the board. We have 4 Great Merchants, which is almost as like a finisher. It's more of a Black Devotion zombie deck than it is just a black zombie deck. So we basically build up a board state, cast Great Merchant, hit our opponent for a lot right to the face, gain that life, get a huge life point swing. We also have 3 Gem Palm Polluters, a really great card to enable cycling, getting card advantage, but we also have a number of zombies on the board. We can cycle it away and deal damage to our opponent's face directly, just from cycling it. So that's a really nice card, and in some of the more grindy matchups, we might actually play it for actual 6 mana if we have the mana to kind of get in a threat, because 4/3 is pretty decent size in Pauper. In our sideboard, real quick, we have 2 Deadweight for more removal against go wide strategies, 4 Duresses in the main or in the side, so we can kind of combat blue-black inside out combo, kind of rip the more important pieces away from those decks. Another Chainer's Edict for removal. 4 Shepherds of Rot to kind of gain us some life and get our opponent, instead of if we can't go wide or we can't hit the face, we can use Shepherd of Rot to slowly drain our opponent's life. Choking Sands, 3 of them, so we can attack our opponent's mana base. And I was recording this video and I forgot to add my 2nd Pestilence. You should have a 2nd Pestilence in the sideboard. It's definitely a really great card. You want to bring in 2 against Elves. It's almost like a I win card against those decks, so it's really important to have in those situations. The mana base is really simple though, 22 swamps, essentially 22 black mana with 19 swamps. If you guys like this video, if you like the deck, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and please give a like and subscribe. We're going to check out the channel for more videos like this, and we're going to jump into the gameplay in just a few seconds here, so hope you guys enjoy, and have a good one. So we get into game 1 right here. We have a decent hand, Festering Mummy, Chainer's Edict, and a Pestilence. It's keepable, it's on that fringe keepable, I would say. It's not too powerful of a hand, but if we draw the right cards, it could be very effective. So our opponent's kind of in the tank, thinking about what they keep, so we get the first play here. We're going to play Festering Mummy, hopefully draw maybe a Carrion Feeder, or a couple of more cards that we can enable some more damage to our opponent. We don't know what they're playing yet, we're not sure what we're going to see. And our opponent's first turn, we're going to see opponents in the tank about whether to play land or not. Let's see what they do. They play a Mountain, and we're going to see a Fanatic Firebrand, which is an interesting creature. You don't see this too often in Pauper. It's definitely not a bad one, though. Pretty good in Standard, and it gets rid of our Festering Mummy right off the bat. So we have no value from that. We draw a Grey Merchant, which isn't exactly the card we want to see right now. We're figuring it's an aggressive strategy if they have Fanatical Firebrand, and Grey Merchant's much more of a later card you want to see, not necessarily the first card or second card off the deck. Excuse me. Our opponent plays a Frenzied Goblin, another aggressive card, so we see a 1/1, so I'm a little worried about that. I don't really like that on the board. I'm not too sure what our opponent's got going on, so I'm going to try a Nameless Inversion and just kind of keep the board clear of any threat, and to keep the Chainer's Edict up until we have a lot of mana, and I feel confident enough that we could cast it and then still draw enough lands to flash it back later in the game, so we're just going to kind of hold on to it. We see a Naya Hushblade, and that kind of signifies what the deck is to me. It's the kind of Jundi Gruul, go wide with lots lots of early drops that they get when you play more multicolored cards and different color lands. And with the cascade mechanic, it's pretty good. So we're gonna just keep his board clear. We're gonna use the 2-mana removal spell, and we're gonna use Chainer's Edict now to keep the board clear if he plays another threat. So we see a second Hushblade. Definitely not a bad threat, but our opponent still has 5 cards in hand, so we definitely need to kind of build up some sort of board state. We're not really doing anything. We're not progressing the game state. Our opponents just keep playing threats, and we keep removing them, and eventually we're going to run out of things to remove them with. So I figure we'll play a Great Merchant, gain that 2 life swing. Even though I want to have a board state built up with him, you want to kind of play him if you have no blockers. You need that blocker in the situation. So I'm going to play Pestilence right next turn, or I could play Pestilence next turn, which would really enable my ability to control the board, but our opponent plays a enchantment that makes their Nigh Hushblade a 5/4. So we're definitely going to take it, go to 15, keep our Great Merchant, because we know we can remove with Chainer's Edict, which is kind of good because we're 2-for-1ing the opponent in a way. They're using an enchantment, they're sacrificing their turn, but they did get in the damage, so it wasn't all for a loss for our opponent. Opponent sacrifices the creature, we have an open board now, and we can flashback Chainer's Edict if we only get 2 more lands. So I'm looking right now in the graveyard, seeing what I can bring back with Ghoul-Caller's Chant, and getting in for 2 with Great Merchant. So we're kind of getting our opponent to 16, starting to get a tiny clock going on. So I'm thinking about getting Ghoul-Caller's Chant. I'm really in the tank about it. I'm not too sure what I would get back, and this is kind of where I think I make a huge misplay if I do it, which I did. I should have cycled Gem Palm Polluter, and then I should have brought it back. Even though it was only been for 1 damage, it wasn't really about the damage that mattered. I need to see more cards off my deck. I need to get something going on. So that was definitely a misplay, I think, on my part. But our opponent has 3 mountains now, 1 forest, 4 cards left in the hand, and we're gonna see if they have any more relevant threats left for us. And if he does have any really bad threats, we could just play Pestilence and wipe the board, essentially, as long as it's not bigger than a 3/4. So we see a Hackblade. Hackblade's not bad, but it's not very relevant right now. We could easily kill it, block for Festering Mummy, or just swing him with Great Merchant still and still get damage in. We could also Gem Palm Polluter now for 2 and see another card. So I like where we are right now. Opponent passes the turn, we have Ghoul Raiser, and I know if I cycle my Gem Palm Polluter, now I could get that 2 damage, draw a card, play Ghoul Raiser, and almost guarantee the fact I'll get that back. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna head our opponent down to 14, see another card. We see another swamp, so we have 4 now, and I could just play Pestilence here, and I like that play here. I'm just gonna play Pestilence, and I'm just gonna let my opponent know to not create a board state, essentially. And we're gonna keep our attackers back. So I could have probably gotten Great Merchant, but we are susceptible to removal then if he was able to kill the Festering Mummy, or he's able to grow the Giant Hackblade big enough that I can't block it profitably. We can get in for another big point of damage. So I definitely don't want to do that. So he bolts Great Merchant, and we see a second bolt, and that removes Great Merchant, but he essentially is 2-for-1 himself now by doing this. He has 1 card left in hand, and none of those bolts hit our face, which is what we want to see, because now our life total is still up really high. We still have a Pestilence on the board, and he can attack with this Hushblade, or not the Hushblade, Jackblade. What the heck is the name of it? But he can attack with this card now. It's a 3/2. I can't block it really, and I want to keep my Pestilence on the board, so he knows I'm gonna not block. He finds Curdape, so things are going south for us. It seems pretty quickly here. Opponent's able to build up quite a board state with just 1 card left in his hand, and it was a good one, that's for sure. And he's able to get in for 4 more damage here, and bring us down to 11. So we're gonna Pestilence the board away. I don't really mind if we lose the Mummy, because we're able to get rid of our opponent's whole entire board state, and no worries about that. And we can also play Ghoul Caller or Ghoul Raiser and keep the Pestilence. Here I would have just removed the whole board. There's no point in me doing it this way. I could have. Okay. So that was interesting. I'm casting Change to getting rid of that. I could have just wiped the board with Pestilence. Definitely a misplay. I'm not sure why I did that exactly. Can't remember now. But we will take 2 from the Curdape. I could have essentially saved myself a point of damage. But if I just I might not have been able to cycle Gem Palm Polluter, and I might have been worried about that. But that's still, I don't think that's good enough of a reason. So I definitely think that was a misplay. So we get another Shambling Goblin. And it looks like I'm not going to try to wipe the board. I'm going to try to cycle Gem Palm Polluter, get another 2 damage in, and see another card. Hit our opponent for 2 more, draw a card, and we get Sign in Blood. So definitely gonna go to 6 to see 2 more cards. We have a Great Merchant, which is exactly what we want to see. That's definitely a great draw. I'm gonna get him for 2. There's no reason not to do it. I'm not gonna block anyways. And so opponent goes to 9, we'll be at 6, as long as we're also not trusting that they don't have a way to grow the Curd Ape, make it a 2-3 or 3-3, no other hasty threat, and they don't have a Bolt in hand. So they only have 2 cards, but it's still a risky play on my part to not leaf back Ghoul Razor, but I thought the 2 extra points of damage would be worthwhile. So opponent doesn't do anything, which is great. Great first step. Get in with Curd Ape. We're okay. I think we're going to take this, but opponent does not choose to attack at first. He's really thinking about it. I think there is no reason to not attack and just leave back the Ghoul Razor, or I would just leave back the Ghoul Razor then, and I have 2 more cards in hand. I have more relevant cards, I think, than he does in the long game. So he definitely should have attacked. I'm going to drop the Curd Ape down to a 1-2, so now it's a much less relevant creature. I can attack into whatever block it, and he has 1 damage on him still, and I can just kill with Pestilence. Perfect. Untap, we have almost all the action now that we need. We can play a Sultai Emissary and draw 2, or we could just play a Grey Merchant for just the 6 Devotion, get him to 2, and essentially kill him and win the game here. Judging with no removal spells from our opponent and no other life gain, but our opponent scoops it up, that's the game. Going into sideboarding against this kind of deck, I think we're going to want to bring in maybe a couple more deadweights. I think would be pretty effective in this deck. So I bring in a couple deadweights, and I bring in Chainer's Edict, another good removal spell. I figure if we can keep the board relatively clear, they can't go too wide, and we will play more relevant creatures that will gain us life in the end of the game. We have a better way to control the board, so I go down 1 Polluter. Don't think I need a 4-3 for 6 right now, even though it does cycle and I can hit my opponent. I'm thinking we're going to try to get him with Beats Plan, Sign in Blood go down 1, and a Ghoul Razor down 1. So we are going to go run it like that. And our Shambling Goblins and our Festering Mummies are really good in this matchup. We want to keep those in for sure. If I had a second Pestilence, I might bring in the second Pestilence. Just going for a sip of water there. I think I might have brought in the Pestilence if that was in my sideboard. It wouldn't be a bad option. I would have to really have a Great Merchant to make it very effective, though. And if I got it out early, it would be detrimental to myself, though, because I'm building a board state. So definitely would be iffy on the Pestilence. It's a pretty good early game, but it's not really an early game kind of play. You don't play much in the early game. Opponent's taking a long time to get ready, obviously. I really do like the fact that I went down to Sign in Blood. That extra damage could be relevant. The card draw might not be as relevant. The Polluter is iffier choice. I could have probably gone down maybe Ghoul Caller's Chant. It's a pretty good card in my matchup too. Maybe a Vicious Offering. It's not as good a removal spell. So our opponent's ready. And opponent gets to play first here. But we have a fantastic hand. We have Festering Mummies, can block anything that they play, any of their threats, even when they grow them at first. Then we have a Sultai Emissary with a card advantage, just to block it. Get an easy chump block, get a flip card over on the top of our deck. We have a Deadweight now, which is even more removal. So we have a really good hand. If we just draw a couple of our late finishers when we need a couple turns from now, I think we'll be sitting in a great spot. Opponent Lightning Bolts a Festering Mummy, so we don't get any value off of it, but we get a bolt out of the hand, so it's okay. Opponent's at 6 cards in hand, plays land. He's got both colors as mana, and we see 1/1 with haste. Gets bigger when you play another creature. So we take 1, that's fine. Another Festering Mummy right here, so I think we're just going to run out both Festering Mummies, and we'll let our opponent grow his creatures, and we'll choose to attack into it or not. We also have a couple of removal spells in hand that we don't necessarily want to fire off right now. We might want to try to get rid of a more problematic creature. We see a Ripclan Crasher. That is not too important. It'll make it a 2-2 and a 3-2 with the Outburst. But we aren't too worried. If he does attack for this, I will just double block and we'll kill both of the creatures. He's tapped out. He has no way to combat trick anything in. And I'm fairly confident that this is a great trade because I can just get back both of these creatures with my Ghoul Caller's Chant, and now those 3 cards in his hand have to be great cards from him. He is very far behind. So we used the 1/1, and we are able to target both of them, killing both his creatures. I don't know if our opponent realized that was what was going to happen. It seems like a really bad idea to attack into my 2 Festering Mummies, but he might not have known that I could just bring them back, so we bring the Emissary onto the board, and then we bring back 2 Festering Mummies. Then we pass the turn back to the opponent, and we have a very good hand. 2 removal spells for any more creatures they have. They have another land in their hand, and opponent plays Jund Hackblade. Not a bad threat. Definitely not something that we're too worried about, though. And a second Hackblade with 1 card left in hand, we're feeling pretty good because the Festering Mummies are just as good in this matchup. We'll have to take 3 damage here. We can chump 3, flip a card over on the top of our library, manifest, and we get a Ghoul Raiser. Not a bad card to draw in the situation, but it's not too important. It's not going to really change the swing of anything. We don't have a Gem Palm Polluter to cycle back. We don't have a Gray Merchant we could possibly hit, so it's not too good. So we're going to play a couple Festering Mummies and do the same thing and essentially keep them on the board for more insurance, and we're going to use a Dead Weight on one of the Hackblades, making the other one a 2/1, so we effectively can block pretty well. We're going to attack for 2, and we're going to pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent plays Evolving Wilds, or cracks Evolving Wilds, gets a forest, and passes the turn back to us, no attack, so we get another Vicious Offering, and because we have Chainer's Edict, I feel very confident that we can just fire this off, have a removal spell in hand, and get in for 4 damage. Opponent's thinking about it, he's in the tank, might have the green-red counter spell of Dreams. But it does kill the Hackblade, and we're going to get in for 4 damage. So now we're on the Janky P plan. We can play Ghoul Racer and make a faster clock and also bring back a zombie from our graveyard, but our opponent just scoops it up because he sees the writing on the wall with 2 cards in hand and no way to deal with our board. Game 2 was decent, really pretty good hand. We're going to turn 1 Duress here. This is the second game against a blue-black control deck. So we see a Relic Progenitus, an Agony Warp, a Gush, and a Preordained. So I think we're going to have to take the Gush. Gush is just such easy card draw, and I know that Preordained will kind of fix your draws as you go, but opponent only had 1 land. Turn over, it expands, and passes. So we're going to have to start playing some relevant cards, kind of get a clock developed, because it's the only really way to beat blue-black control. The good thing about our opponent's hand is he needs to go get a blue source, and he has Agony Warp in his hand, but it's not castable unless he draws a swamp. So opponent gets blue mana, I play my Emissary, pass it back to the opponent. Preordained, predictable. Pretty predictable. So he's going to try to find probably the black source, but he finds an island. That's what he needed. So he plays Delver of Secrets. So we see that out of his hand. We do have a Chainer's Edict, which is really good. We can get rid of it. And he does have an Augur of Bolas, but a Delver is a much more relevant threat for us because of the fact that we really can't block a flyer in this deck ever. So we get rid of that right away. We play Festering Mummy, and we pass the turn back to our opponent. After I get in for 1 damage. Get our opponent down to 19, pass the turn. Opponent has 2 mana still. They ponder, so they're looking for some answers. They still have, we only know of 3 cards in their hand. I should have deleted the Delver off the screen. There we go, figured it out. And Preordains again, so he's just kind of setting up his hand, and just like this, his opponent will have 6 cards in hand. We already don't know half his hand. So the way blue-black just draws cards and has such good controlling games over you is definitely an impacting factor, I feel like, in this meta. It's a hard deck to beat when you're on a creature plan. So Carrion Feeder, we're going to play this down, and it's pretty good. We can sack it to Sultai Emissary, grow it, and also manifest the top card of our deck. We get another Chainer's Edict even if he flips the Delver, but if he doesn't block here, I could also sack Festering Mummy, grow Carrion Feeder, and kill the Delver, which I think will be the play. I'll also probably sack the Emissary to get the manifest card and make a 2/2 on the board instead of a tapped 1/1. So we kill the Delver, grow the Carrion Feeder to a 2/2. We're going to sack the Emissary, and we're going to grow the Carrion Feeder, get a Morph card, and if it's a land, we'll be pretty happy. So it's Cool Caller's Chant, which is a pretty good card to have, but not right at the moment. Opponent still doesn't have black mana for Agony Warp. They haven't played the Augur Bolas yet, and they still have the Relic in their hand. Opponent, this is their 5th cantrip, and they still haven't found the pieces they need. I don't know what this guy was doing. He plays Augur Bolas. Gets a Gush. That's not good. He's going to pick up 2 islands and Gush. And we don't like that. He has 7 cards in his hand again and plays Relic. 6 cards down. he's going to be able to start eating our Chainer's Edicts in the graveyard, so we won't be able to flash them back, and that's pretty frustrating. It's a little annoying. He could also start eating away zombie creatures we have that we can get back with Ghoul Caller's Chant, so that's definitely, it's not something that we like. We have a 4th mana source, and we're going to definitely Chainer's Edict this Augur Bolas because he has no relevant creatures that we know of, and we want to get damage in and force the opponent to have to find the answers to our creatures, and instead of countering our stuff. So we can constantly play threats, hopefully, if we draw. We get him for 5 damage, get him to 12, pass a turn. Grey Merchant would be really good, not on this board state, just to swing 3 isn't that powerful, but it's still relevant, 2/4 that can, try to get in some damage. The 3/3 Carrion Feeder is really good here because we don't want it to die to Augur Bolas, and we can, or not die, get blocked by Augur Bolas, we can block and attack through Bolas and kill it. So we have a Duress, which is a pretty relevant card right now. We can look at our opponent's hands, see what they got going on, and rip a card out of it. Opponent's got a Echoing Decay and Agony Warp. So opponent doesn't have black mana, but I take the Agony Warp because Echoing Decay doesn't get Carrion Feeder, and even if he does attack or try to Echoing Decay my 2/2, I can just eat it with Carrion Feeder, make that spell worthless to his mana, and have a 4/4. So he can't really threaten me with that, but Agony Warp kills Carrion Feeder no matter what. So we want to get rid of that, or it makes it a weaker creature. So he gets a Gurmag Angler, though. We don't like that. No answer for a Gurmag Angler right now. And Stormbound Geist. That card is annoying. It recurs, and it's flyer. It's hard to deal with in my deck. So we're not looking too good. I'm going to get rid of the Duress when he tries to eat. Opponent's looking like they might be able to finish us pretty soon right now. Opponent is down to 9, though. So we get another swamp. We can play Grey Merchant. The opponent's tapped out, and that's definitely what we're going to do. We're going to get a couple more points of damage and get up to 6. And now at this point, if we draw another Grey Merchant, we could be really close to winning the game. So now we could also sacrifice the 2 creatures to Carrion Feeder and make it a 5/5 and block the Gurmag Angler, essentially solving that problem for us. Opponent also, if they did attack Gurmag Angler in, we would be able to get in much more damage and make that threat of another Grey Merchant or a Gem Palm Polluter way more close to lethal. So opponent's in a tricky situation as well. They do have Stormbound Geist, but Stormbound Geist has a slow clock as a 2/2. We can survive a long time and see a lot of cards and just build a board state to go wide. So we're in a pretty decent situation. He's making me exile another card. He hasn't cracked it yet, so I get rid of a Barrymore. Not really relevant. I want to try to keep these Chainer's Edicts because if I just draw 2 more lands and I draw 1 more threat that gets countered, something like that, I could potentially pop a Chainer's Edict and get rid of one of my opponent's creatures. But he does have the ability to crack Relic at any time, I guess, so it's not too relevant. So Festering Mummy, get that down. And this actually makes a really effective way to use Carrion Feeder. I could sacrifice Carrion Feeder, or the Festering Mummy, to Carrion Feeder, hit the Gurmag Angler down to a 4/4, and have Carrion Feeder as a 4/4. But I could also do it to Stormbound Geist, a creature I can't block ever. So I grow the Carrion Feeder to a 4/4, make the Stormbound Geist to 1/1 to even slow the clock down more. It's 21 turns now that he's going to have to hit it in the air to kill me. That's a lot of card draw that I could potentially find when I'm at almost 21 turns. So they gush again. This is crazy because now opponents gush twice. They fill up their hand so successfully so many times, and we're still in this game, and it's still very close. Opponent's looking up to 8 cards right now with this Brainstorm in his hand. Puts back 2, down to 6. Opponent cracks Terramorphing Expanse. Looking for a land. He gets an island, and he still has 1 blue mana floating, plays another island, so he still has 4 mana, so he can still play a big creature that's very threatening. And we see nothing happening, probably keeping up some counters, and Stormbound Geist gets in for 1. So that's a clock we can deal with. He cracks, you use Relic, I get rid of Festering Mummy this time. I get a Grey Merchant, I think that is a heck of a draw. I could play Grey Merchant right now, and I figure it'll be countered, which it is. But we want to get rid of any counter spells, and we want to try to be able to build up enough and relevant cards to get rid of it. We could also get it back with Ghoul Caller's Chant from the Manifest. Actually, no, we can't, because it's not a creature. There's a couple things we could do though. So there's a good I think that's a reasonable play to run out the Grey Merchant. If we play another relevant threat, we could just attack on enough damage twice to kill our opponent and sack enough to Carrion Feeder to grow it bigger than Gurmag Angler. So opponent does counter that though, but we need to play relevant threats. We can't just hold on to cards. We can't let the opponent have. We know he has seen so many cards. He probably has more than one counterspell. He can probably play more than one counterspell in a turn. So we need to, with all this mana, the opponent, we need to play threats when the opponent only has a limited number of mana. Ooh, that's not good for our deck. We see a second Stormbound Geist. This one now, it is a clock. We can't really remove them either because they just come back as bigger creatures. So we're going to get rid of the Augur Bolas. It's just one less blocker our opponent could possibly have. And now if they attack with both Stormbound Geists, we'll have enough damage to get through. We could push more damage through and potentially open up to a win with Grey Merchant. We still know he has Echoing Decay though, so that's a little frustrating. It's not too annoying though, it's not too relevant. We're gonna go to 16, but we do need to find an answer to this Gurmag Angler or a way to gain more life. Makes me eat another card. I'm gonna start eating the Festering Mummy and eat up the Jugabog. So we're gonna blow up opponent's graveyard. That way they can't cast another Gurmag Angler right away, even if they had one. So it's a little helpful, it's a little relevant. And now we're gonna try to push in some damage that if we draw a Grey Merchant, it could be potentially lethal. That's one of the only outs I saw because they had just drawn so many cards and eventually we would die from these Geists, and the Gurmag Angler, he would find another one or he'll find a removal spell that's relevant and we'll be in pretty bad shape. So this is definitely a good play on this part here. Getting enough damage to open up a way to guarantee a win, I think is always the right play. So we have 2 life our opponent. Opponent draws, so they're going to be able to get in for 8 damage this turn, but it lets us to have the potential to draw our out and win. So opponent gets in for 3. Down to 13. Opponent has a Relic Crack. Clears my graveyard. So there is no reason for him to not cast Echoing Decay on the Morph card or the Manifest card because of the fact that I don't have the Carrion Feeder anymore on the board to guarantee the survival or the importance of the waste of that mana. He can kill it and profit from it now, so there's no reason why he couldn't pop it off at any moment. So I am essentially playing with a 2-2 and a 2-4. I could attack, obviously, to get in, but because I see that play, he wants me to attack to kill the Gurmag Angler. I'm going to keep the Ghoul Raiser in my hand, because if he does remove the Grey Merchant, I could play Ghoul Raiser, get back the Grey Merchant, and potentially kill my opponent. So we see opponents in the tank. They got a lot of mana, they got some big creatures, but they haven't finished this yet. We're being really grindy, we're really fighting it out against blue-black control. It's turn 12, and we still have the potential to win. Opponent gets us down to 10, so the clock's eating away. We have a couple more turns to do it. Opponent finds another Gurmag Angler, which definitely will speed up the clock. But we find a Grey Merchant, and if our opponent's tapped out, but they could still have days, if our opponent's tapped out, I don't go for the play. I don't do it. I should have seen it. That was crazy. I don't know why I didn't do that. I think I'm hitting myself here. I remember playing this game and thinking like, wow, I could have just killed my opponent and now they're going to untap with 5 cards in their hand, get 3 more damage in, and if I don't have this, if they don't let this Grey Merchant resolve, I lose. But I could have just played last turn and won. I can't believe I didn't do it. So I can attack and get in for 2. I'm going to make him Echoing Decay. I'm thinking about just attacking with the 2, but then I remember the Echoing Decay is relevant. He can just kill both my creatures, and that ruins our board state, and we would essentially lose either way. So I want to play this Grey Merchant, and I'm expecting a counter. By all means, I'm expecting a counter. I misplayed horribly. I deserve to lose, but it resolves, and we get this game. We steal the game. So since we steal that game, we're going to go into a third game, and we have a decent opening hand here. We have Festering Mummy, Solitary Emissary, 2 Ghoul Raisers. Definitely not a bad hand. If you find a Gray Merchant or a Gem Palm Polluter, this hand can be fantastic. Opponent is in the tank whether they want to keep to 7, so we're probably going to go with the curve. The expected curve is Festering Mummy turn 1, turn 2 Sultai Emissary, turn 3 Ghoul Raiser. If we have anything in the bin, we'll get someone back, or if not, we just have a relevant clock. Play Festering Mummy, and even if this dies, that way it could potentially get a creature out of the way, and we could also flash it back with the Ghoul Raiser. So we play that card, we pass the turn. Opponent in the tank plays a Crossroads. We say okay. So interesting call here. I'm not too sure what the deck is. It could be just general life gain, but that deck's obnoxious and it's not very common. And I'm not too sure what my opponent's playing at the moment. So attacking for 1 could also be just red-white Weenie or red-white Boros. So it could be a couple things still. I'm thinking right now it's Boros. Get him for 1, and I don't play Emissary. God dang, I just have a couple misplays in this one, don't I? So I didn't play the Emissary, which was silly. Should have played it. Would have more relevant clock, and I wouldn't be a turn behind, essentially. Opponent is thinking about it. Pass the turn. They got 8 cards in hand. Haven't played anything interesting yet. Play at Plains, and thinking about it. Again. Best part about MTGO is all the people that like to think about everything they do. So he's got something he wants to play, and we see a Johnny's Mantra, 1 life every upkeep. So now we know it's probably something to do with a life gain deck, trying to grind out damage slowly while they gain life consistently. I have a Gem Palm Polluter here, so I can just play Sultai Emissary and pass the turn, or I can cycle. But I'm going to try to save the cycle. I might draw another 2 mana, 1 mana spell, get a 3 damage swing in with Gem Palm Polluter while I cycle it. So I'm going to hold on to it, just play the Emissary, pass the turn. Opponent gets that life from Johnny's Mantra, goes to 21. Opponent goes to play a land, I assume. We get another Crossroads, gains 2 life, 23. So our ones aren't doing too much right now. He's kind of gaining life hand over fist and still way ahead on that. But we do have more relevant cards in our hand. We can develop a board state and make gaining life consistently really difficult. And he passes the turn. So we have a Shambling Goblin, which is pretty good. We're just going to play the Shambling Goblin, and then we'll cycle the Gem Palm Polluter, hopefully into a really good threat. Maybe a Gray Merchant, but we're going to play Ghoul Raiser instead. I felt like I need to have a clock against the life gain deck. If they play really grindy cards, I can't really deal with that. And we got Mana Tithe style. They got me good. Wasn't expecting that. So we lose a Ghoul Raiser, but it's okay though, because if we do play Ghoul Raiser, we can potentially get back a Ghoul Raiser, which will get back Gem Palm Polluter. So that loop is not still lost yet. So we only get it for 2 here, and essentially 1 because of the Johnny's Mantra. He'll just go down to 22 now. And this is going to be a grindy game. I can just feel it now. It's going to be a long one. It's going to be grindy. Opponent's not playing fast. They have nothing on the board yet. They've just Mana Tithed us and played a Johnny's Mantra. And we've played 3 creatures, swung in every turn, and they have 2 more life than us. And we haven't even been damaged yet. So our opponent is in the tank, thinking about what they're going to play here. And I was really interested in what they were going to play. I had never seen a Mana Tithe, a Johnny's Mantra style Pauper deck, and this is definitely an interesting deck. We see an Aven Riftwatcher, and this is where I was like, oh god, this deck is so frustrating already. This thing is super annoying. Vanishing is a really good mechanic, especially on this card like that. I feel like this card is really powerful, but only if it serves you a purpose. This thing is really good at just gaining you life. If you just keep it on the board, you're pretty much gaining life against token strategies while you can block and, slowly pick away their creatures. So I'm going to cast Ghoul Raiser, get back my other Ghoul Raiser, then cycle Gem Palm Polluter, and hit him for 4, bring him back down to the starting life total, and while I look for a relevant threat. He can't really afford to attack, because I'll be able to get him for about 5 damage, so he definitely can attack after the Gem Palm Polluter hit, but just draw land, but at least we get it off our deck. Maybe we can draw a relevant threat next turn, go to combat, and we're going to pass the turn. I could have attacked with, I'm actually attacking this Assault Emissary. I could have attacked with Festering Mummy and brought it down, made it a worse kind of creature, but it re-enters the battlefield. I don't know if that's the trigger would stack like that. It also wouldn't kill it, so it wouldn't really be relevant. And it's not really attacking though, because we don't have enough threats really to make it threatening, and he'll be able to block and kill anything we attack with. So Vanishing 3, he gains back 2 life, goes back up to 21. He doesn't want to kill the Emissary, and I figured the only way to get him to kill it is to attack into it because he has flying, try to get him to block it and save the 1 damage, but this deck really does not care if you have 1 damage on board. He'll let it happen every time. So he's got 4 mana now, 5 cards in hand. He's got this Rift Watcher, 2 turns left on it with a mantra. I'm not feeling like in too good of a spot, but I don't feel like I'm too threatened either. He's going to attack here, which I'm interested in. I think he might have another creature or an answer for my board. I'm hoping it's the first because we can potentially deal with another creature, but not a board wipe. We can't deal with like something that would wipe a couple creatures away, especially a Ghoul Raiser or a Festering Mummy. Another Aven Rift Watcher is definitely frustrating. He's going to be gaining life now. He's going to be gaining like 8 life after this turn, potentially. So that's not what we wanted to see. And the opponent really doesn't have a relevant clock, though, because eventually these will go away and he'll have to find something else that can hurt me. And I'm not too sure what it could be. So he does put this enchantment. I was like, what the heck does this do? I have to pay 3 to attack with this creature. So I draw a pretty relevant card. I'm going to Sign and Blood myself, draw a couple cards, go to 16. I have a Ghoul Caller's Chance, so I can play Ghoul Raiser, bring back Gem Palm Polluter, and then that way I can cycle it again, and if I lose a creature in combat, I can bring it back with Ghoul Caller's Chant. So we like what we got in our graveyard now. We like the ability to cycle this next turn, and we're going to go to combat. And we could attack here if we want to. If we wanted to attack into this 1 Rift Watcher, I think wouldn't be a bad idea. But we just go with the Sultai Emissary, which I think is the right play also. Opponent thinking about blocking. Don't block though. Smart opponent. Smart opponent. Going to the opponent's end step, they gain 5 life, man. 5 life in 1 turn. This deck just gains a crazy amount of life in the late game, but we're hoping to be able to out-jank them with our zombies. Opponent goes up to 25. And they can get in 4 damage, bringing me down to 12. Effectively a really fast clock. I could be at very low life totals by the end of this turn, and not the end of this turn, at the end of this next couple turns when these Rift Watchers get away. Opponent going to combat, and if I was the opponent, I would definitely attack. I think that the relevant life gain kind of outweighs my board. So he's going to get in for 4, getting me down to 12. He'll be able to gain back another 5 life next turn though, so my attack would be for 2 essentially if I attack with everything. Opponent's in the second main. He could also have another creature, which would be annoying, hard to deal with. But he does lose one of the Rift Watchers next turn, which is relevant. He gets a Journey into Nowhere, so he can get rid of one of my Ghoul Raisers, or Festering Mummy, or some Emissary. He's a few targets. I think he would get rid of I would get rid of the Emissary. I'm not too worried about Ghoul Raisers being on the board, but he does get rid of the Ghoul Raiser. If you get rid of the Emissary, you ruin that card draw for me. I can't get a 2/2. I can't get a potentially more dangerous card underneath it as a 2/2. So I think that would have been a better play. And 2 damage is just not relevant, I think, in this matchup for him. So I think that was a bit of a misplay on my opponent's part. Gonna cycle Gem Palm Polluter here. Hopefully draw into another threat. I'm gonna be able to hit him for 4, so it's not a bad turn. Hit him for 4, and hit him for another potentially 5, because I have enough mana to pay for my Ghoul Raiser. We see a Barrymore, we'll cycle it, we'll have enough mana to attack still. So we cycle that, we get another land. I could bring back Gem Palm Polluter and then cycle it again, and I think I need to do that. I need to find something that brings this clock faster, because I just keep finding lands, and I can't keep finding lands. So I already used Ghoul Raiser, get back Gem Palm Polluter. We're going to cycle it again, hit him for another 4. So it's not a big deal that we don't have mana to attack with the Ghoul Raiser anymore. So we cycle him away, hit him for another 4, get him to 14, draw another card, and we see the Grey Merchant. Pretty good draw. Not bad at all. We could get in for 3 more, get into 11. Opponent will go up to 16 next turn. Might actually not go up to 16, might go up to 14. But we'll see what the Rift Watcher trigger's like. And he also could have another Rift Watcher, potentially. Or wait a game like that. Opponent's got 2 cards in, or 2 mana, 3 cards in hand, get him down to 11. Opponent, his turn, he has a potential spell in his turn to cast Revitalize. He gains 3 life, up to 14, draws another card, and 3 cards in hand still, untaps, draws. Vanishing first, he gets that triggered. This one of the 2 Rift Watchers will go away. So thank God, that's definitely not much more of a dangerous clock. So we're not too worried about the clock anymore. He does gain a lot of life though, gets rid of one of the Rift Wings. He gains life from leaving the battlefield, goes up to 17. And we have a vanishing counter go down, so he loses the Rift Watcher next turn, so he's going to try to attack for the 2 points of damage. Doesn't make much sense to keep it back. He needs to get my life total down, and he doesn't have any much profiting from just staying back to block a 2-2, potentially just a 2-2. So I would get in if I was him, so it makes sense that he's going to attack here. And we have a Great Merchant next turn, which is going to be about a 3, 4, 5, 7 damage to the face, gain 7. So we're going to be in a decent spot now with a 2-4. It's not easy for our opponent to block, and it's easy for our opponent to block if they have a creature, but it is a constant threat of not going away unless he has a removal spell like a Journey to Nowhere. Opponent plays Journey to Nowhere, so it's no longer going to be a 7-point swing. It'll probably be a 6-point swing because he has that 1-mana enchantment on the Ghoul Raiser. Gets rid of Emissary, definitely the right pick here, I would say, in this situation. Get rid of the potential card advantage. And opponent's going to have 2 mana left with 3 cards in hand, and hopefully they pass the turn back to us, which they do. We see a Pestilence, which is not a bad card to draw, and I think what I'm going to do now is, because that Rift Watcher is going to leave the board, I'm going to set up a potentially more blowout of a turn. I'm going to play Pestilence, and we're going to be able to have an 8-point mana swing with the threat of Pestilence constantly on the board, and play Great Merchant next turn, but potentially something else that I could play on top of it because we will have 9 mana. Anything other than a second Great Merchant, I think I can play in my deck. Gem Palm Polluter as an exception. I would cycle Gem Palm Polluter. So we play Pestilence. We're going to get in for 2. We could actually get in for 4 because we have enough mana. He's going to gain 2 life though, so he's only going to get in for 1 with also on top of a Johnny's Mantra. That's what it is. And we get in for 1, essentially. Opponent goes up to 16. Opponent has another spell at the end of the turn, play another Revitalize. Yep, goes up to 16, draws another card. Still 4 cards now when he gets this draw after the Vanishing Trigger and Johnny's Mantra. The opponent goes up to 17, and then 19. So opponent's at 19. It's starting life total, and we only have 4 power clock. But we do have a Great Merchant, so it's going to be a big swing, and we'll gain a lot of life, which is relevant. So opponent is up to 19. We'll see what they got in their hand. For 4 mana, what do you got with your 4 cards in hand? We're hoping they don't play another creature. They play another Rift Watcher. That would be very disappointing. I don't want to have to wipe my board just to get rid of it, and I don't want to see it gain him more life. It's a very frustrating card to deal with. Opponent's in the tank. They're thinking about what their options are. Opponent knows that I have to pay 3 mana to attack the Ghoul Raiser, so it's an expensive clock, along with the fact that it is a clock that's not very fast. We just see 2 1/1s, which is definitely good for us. So opponent plays 2 1/1s out, and we're just gonna be that's fine with us. We're gonna take that. We're gonna get a swamp, sadly, not another creature to play. We're gonna play the Great Merchant now and have a nice life swing and probably attack in with our Festering Mummy and our Shambling Goblin along with Ghoul Raiser. Opponent is thinking about it. He takes a lot of damage now from this Great Merchant. It's going to be an 8-point life swing. He's down to 11. We're up to 18. We're going to try to get in for 4 more damage on top of that. He's going to be able to block 2 of it. He's going to take 2. He's essentially going down 1 more because of the Ajani's Mantra. So he's going to be at 10, which is not bad. Gonna keep our opponent to 10, and we have a 4 power clock on board and with Pestilence on board, we can essentially attack next turn into an empty board and kill him. So we have lethal on board right now. It's essentially lethal. We see Shambling Goblin, doesn't matter, and this is a little bit of another, my own idiocracy here. I thought I had to put a counter with Fester Roaming on something, and I just kept like waiting for it to let me say I don't want to do that because it's a May ability. I really thought like Moto was bugged or something. Turns out I'm just the idiot, and it's not Moto, it's me. So you just have to put the counter on something, and then you get to choose whether or not you want to use that ability, which is what I end up finding out the hard way. And I knew that it's how they all work, but I just, for some reason, I just really believe that this wasn't letting me get the option that I wanted. So you get to see a little bit of comedy here. I just repeatedly press cancel, thinking it's going to change, thinking, oh my god, this is ridiculous. So I decide I'm going to just put it on my Great Merchant, and then it gives me the option to just not do that. Say no, and I am past a turn. So opponent definitely has to find something here. They need a creature, they need some way to gain more life, find more cards. So opponent's kind of running out of gas. They are 10 life, 4 cards in hand. They have to be, there's no way that they're just dead cards. They might have another Journey to Nowhere. I was worried about that. Another Journey to Nowhere would be pretty brutal. I would be down to a low board. He cycles, that's pretty good. Like to see it, 4 cards still. And we do have essentially lethal on board here with our Pestilence. We could hit opponent for 8 damage with our Pestilence. We just have to get in with the Ghoul Razor. Opponent pay mana, tap for 2, then 3, and we have a Rift Watcher. So opponent's not dead yet. Opponent is not dead yet. The Rift Watchers are keeping them alive. Opponent gains 2 life, 12 to 18, and he's tapped out, passes the turn. We see a Grey Merchant, fantastic draw, essentially lethal, so we're just going to play the Grey Merchant, and we will be able to hit him for 8 damage, bring him to 4. With 5 mana left, we can just Pestilence away the board and kill our opponent for 4 damage. So we pretty much locked up this one. Opponent doesn't have a way to stop the Pestilence damage, or he will gain 2 life once Rift Watcher leaves the battlefield, but he will not gain the life until the Pestilence trigger is already in the stack and is already on 0. So the Rift Watcher is not an out for our opponent, and I think that's what the opponent was waiting for, thinking that was what was going to happen. So he gains 2 life, but we still have 2 more mana up, and we can still attack with our Great Merchants. So opponent's still dead. There's no way that he could get around that. I was wrong about the trigger thing. I think I had enough mana to kill him, but he wasn't going to be on 0 when he died. He'd be on 1. So we are able to finish our opponent off. I hope you guys enjoyed.